Welcome everybody to how to get customers for local service businesses. So there are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 of us in here. So who in here owns a local service business? This guy does.
Sorta.
You do. You want to, right?
Casey, you kind of do.
Kind of, yeah.
What do you do?
I'm a general contractor, but I'm transitioning into roofing sales and windows and skylights.
Okay. So when you do the sales, will you be responsible for getting your own leads?
Yes, sir. That's what
Okay, so then this will definitely be applicable for you. Holly, you're wanting to start a landscaping company, right?
Yep.
I mean, you're just getting started, but what's like the biggest hurdle you feel like you're facing right now? Maybe knowing
we're
where
at
to.
ground zero, so I mean.
So knowing where to
there's
start,
really no
maybe.
way to say what might be the most biggest hurdle because we haven't hit any yet,
Okay.
right?
So getting started, that's
Yeah.
kind of the hurdle.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Colton, you said you had a local service company too?
Just launched a company called Peak Visuals. We do high converting ads for companies.
So your clients would be who?
I would say restaurants or other service-based businesses, I guess, right?
Okay, cool.
So
I'll give you a little bit of my background so you understand where I'm coming from. So I grew up in a construction family. I was a carpenter, a laborer when I was like 16 and worked my way up through the trades and probably worked 100 different jobs in my lifetime, in my life so far, but would always come back to construction. And did that all through my 20s. Near the end of my 20s, I moved to Portland, Oregon, and I was working as a superintendent for a modeling company. And we had this big project we were working on, and I was running it. And then we were about to start framing, and my boss, Patrick, called me. He's like, hey, gather all the tools up. This job's over. We're off the job. And I was like, okay. So go back to the shop, and I remember standing in there, and Patrick's like, man, I really knew I should have invested in that marketing stuff, but I always put it off. And I was like, I pulled up my phone and I was like Googling marketing because I didn't know what it was. And I was like, crap, like at the time that was my dream job. You know, I had a salary, a truck, paid vacations, like it was really cool. And I was like, well, now I'm gonna lose it. So I didn't want to lose my job, and I started doing research online, and I had just gotten involved in this forum called the Fastlane Forum. It's like an entrepreneurial forum. And there was this one guy selling a course on Google Ads. And it was like $300, and he's like, get you going with Google Ads in a few hours. So I was like, cool, what's this Google Ads thing? And so I just did all this research, and the next day I went in and I told my boss, I was like, hey man, like if you'll pay for this course, I will work around the clock to learn how to do this Google Ads thing and get us customers. And he was like, absolutely, let's do it. And so I got the course and I took it and got his credit card and put it into the Google AdWords and spent way too much money generating leads, but got some leads, and the leads started coming in. I was like, well, now what am I supposed to do? And he's like, well, we got to sell them now. And so I did some Googling, and it's like, well, how do you sell stuff? Well, you got to have a sales binder. So I made a little sales binder. I printed out pictures of our past work and an example of our estimate and just all this stuff, and started going to homes and talking to people, and eventually made a sale, and then I was back on the job. This particular job was a water damage job, and there was one bathroom in the whole place. So every day I'd have to go in, I'd have to pull up the toilet, work all day, and then reset the toilet. And I was doing that for like the 4th or 5th day in a row, and this toilet was gross. I wasn't smart enough to bring like Lysol and like clean the toilet before I dealt with it. So I'm like dealing with this nasty toilet, and I just had this moment where I'm like, you know what? I'm way more valuable doing what I was doing before than I am with my head in this toilet. So I went home and thought hard about it, and mostly I was afraid of how I was going to break the news to my boss, because I felt really terrible. This guy had invested a lot in me, he'd put a lot of faith in me, and now I was going to leave and go chase a whim. And so I inevitably decided to do that. I gave him a 2-month notice. I said, Patrick, look, I'm going to go do this thing. I have to do it, but I'd love it if you were my first client. And he was like, of course, I'll be your first client. And that was 7 years ago, and he's still a client today. His business is doing better than ever. And at this point, I did freelance web design for years, hired my first employee in 2020. Now I've got 9. We are 1 customer away from having 100 clients. So most of my day-to-day is doing these things called audit and consultations. So it's like the step 1 of working with us is pay a little bit of money, sit down with me, tell me what's going on, let's look at your numbers, and we'll look at your market, and then we'll figure out a plan of attack. And the cool thing about local service companies and contractors and trades companies is the marketing methods are very mature. Like, there's only a handful of ways to get access to the majority of people who are searching or wanting a certain product or service. And most of it's on Google. It's like 92 or something % of searches on the internet are on Google, and 80 something % of people who are looking for a local service business are looking on Google. And so Google's the place you gotta be. And so I'll share my screen and quickly go through the 4 areas of Google. Now normally when I'm talking to someone, I'll first try to go as deep as I can and on their numbers, at least in regards to leads and sales. I want to know, like if I was talking to your plumber client in Tacoma, I would want to know like how many customers they had last year, how many leads they had last year, so I could figure out how many leads it takes for them to close a job. I want to know how much money they spend per lead, which is easy to find on Angie because you can export everything and it'll literally tell you, and you just average it. I want to know their profit margins. And basically I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, if we can figure out how to buy customers, is it going to be viable? Because there's a lot of businesses where it's not viable. If they buy a customer for $500 and they make $600, that $100 does not make up for all the time and effort that they put into it. And there's a lot of people operating their business at that level because they don't pay close attention to their numbers. So the first thing I do is I go in their numbers and say, okay, what are your margins? Are you decent at sales at all? If we can get you people to talk to, are you going to be able to turn them into money? How much money? And that will determine how much they can spend. And then I can tell pretty quickly if it's a local service company, because I work with so many that I know how much it's going to cost. So if I talked to a guy yesterday who does decks in Toronto, and he sells a deck for $5,000 and he has 50% margin. So he makes $5,000 per deck. Great. If we can probably figure out how to get you customers for $1,000, maybe $1,500. He was happy making $3,500 profit on a deck, then cool, let's see how many we can buy. And that's the name of the game. There's ways to get customers organically. If you're just showing up magically, then it's free. If you spend a bunch of money on your website and your Google presence and all that, then there was some upfront cost. But everyone has something of a personal network. They have neighbors, they have doors they can go knock. So there's a lot of ways in the beginning when you don't have anything. Like Holly, all you need right now is people who are willing to take out their checkbook and write you a check. Like for anything. Do you need your garbage taken out? Like whatever. If you're willing to pay me, then you have a customer. And then that customer will leave you a review on Google, and you can ask them, hey, who do you know that also needs their yard done? And one customer is a really valuable asset. It's not just a paycheck. It's like, what are all the other things that you can get from that customer? You can go 5 doors up each side of their house and say, hey, I'm doing your neighbor's yard. I got all my tools out. You want me to do yours? I'll do it half price. Like, you know, anything you can do to get another person to interact with you, any way to help them so that they'll want to help you by leaving a review, giving you another customer, or better yet, paying you some money, right? So I mentioned those things before we get into Google because those things are really fundamental to business. Like if you want to be a top sales guy, ask every single person you talk to, who else do you know that needs this? And if you just do that, for every 100 people you talk to, you're going to get a couple more people to talk to. And most salespeople aren't going to do that, so you'll just leave everybody in the dust. Okay, so let's look at Google for a minute. So Google's made up of 4 areas now. If I'm like a homeowner in Spokane and I want a plumber, I might go to Google, type in plumber in Spokane. And the first thing Google shows me these days is called Google Guaranteed or local service ads. And so basically, if I might click these guys, I might read some reviews, and this is a plumbing company, so maybe I have a sink that's leaking, or I just need someone at my house. So I'm not going to do too much research. They got a lot of reviews, they got a good rating. When I hit that call button, that company pays Google probably like $50 or something like that. And so this is Google's way of replacing the Angie leads of the world. For you guys that don't know what Angie leads, it's Home Advisor. We used to do that in our family company. But basically you're buying leads. And so Home Advisor and Angie and all these companies, mainly what they do is they run ads on Google. They invest a lot of money showing up on Google. They take the leads they get and then they sell them at a profit. And there's a lot of them. They've been doing billions and billions of dollars, and Google saw that and they're like, well, we don't need them. We can just cut them right out, and now we have local service ads. So from the business standpoint, this is a really valuable tool, and it's a really easy way to get into advertising because you put your credit card in and you're just paying when someone calls you. They're automating the dispute stuff now, so if someone calls you and it's not a real lead, then you don't pay for it, essentially. So that's local service ads. Below that, where it says sponsored, this is Google Ads. It used to be called Google AdWords. And this is the traditional pay-per-click. So if I click this right now, this company is probably going to pay like $20, $15, something like that. And for every so many clicks they get, one person will actually call them, and for every so many calls they get, they'll get a customer. And so by doing the math backwards, they can eventually figure out, okay, it takes us 10 clicks to get a customer. A click costs $10, it costs us $100 to get a customer. I'll probably say a lot of numbers because numbers are super important in this. And really, they're the most important thing. Because if you do all this for a long time and you don't track your numbers closely, you'll always kind of be going off of your gut feeling of like, well, how well is this working? I don't feel like it's working very well. I feel like it is. It doesn't matter what you feel. Like, you just look at the numbers. Is it profitable enough for you? Is it not? How much time you put into it? How much money you put into it? Is it worth what you're getting out on the other side? So Google Ads is typically the second thing we see. The next thing we see here is Google Maps. So these guys aren't paying to be here. Google has chosen these companies to show me because it thinks that these are the top 3 companies to show me for whatever reason. And an important thing to note on Google Maps, like number 1, any company ever should be on there because it's free to get on there, and it's the best place to get reviews in my opinion because it's going to be one of the most visible things. If you can get your listing to show up as one of these 3 companies, and you can have more reviews than your competitors, you're going to get more calls than anybody else on Google Maps. And it's important to be one of these 3 companies because I can click more businesses here and I can see a long, long, long list of companies here. And only the ones that are in the top 3 those are the only ones I'm seeing unless I'm going to go dig further. But why would I? Because I got plenty of good options right here. So like at my company, Adapt Digital Solutions, this is one of the main things we do. We get people to show up here, and then we coach them on getting reviews. And if those 2 things happen, they're going to get calls. But like you pointed out earlier, like with Angie, your client's seeing diminishing returns. They can't get any more out of it. And it's going to be the same on any of these marketing methods that you can do. You're going to hit a certain point where you can spend more money, but you're not going to get as much return. And Google Maps is the same. There's only so many people searching for this on any given day or month. And a certain amount of them are going to stop here, and they're just going to call one of these companies. Some other ones will click on here. So by the time you get down to Google Maps, maybe half the people are already found what they're looking for. And by the time you get below Google Maps, you're dealing with like 15% of the people searching. And so this is called the organic search. This is the 4th section, and this is what Google looked like, 20 years ago. There was nothing else. It was just a list of websites. And so if you could get your website to show up here, you were cruising. That's what we did. Your mom built the website, and that took care of us for like 10 years. And then one day we're like, we haven't gotten any calls in like a year. What the heck? And we go online, and well, everyone else has a website now. So it worked really well for a while, but the more competitive it got, the less it worked for us. And so these days, when I'm dealing with like a new company, or basically anybody that comes across my desk who does not already have a good website and a Google listing and is not actively getting reviews, that's always the first thing I push for, unless they're going to go out of business in 2 months if they don't turn it around. If they don't have enough of a timeline to work with, then you don't really want to bother going for this, because it's more of a long-term thing. It's not an overnight. If I sign up for Google ads, I could have ads showing in an hour. Local service ads take me a couple weeks to get through their verification, and then I could have ads going and be getting some calls. So, sure. Do we need the mic?
Yeah. Not meaning to interrupt, but pertinent to that section there, is that based on how much you are spending to pop you up in the top 2? Is it based on spend amount, or? I would think it is, but I don't know.
Not really.
No?
No. So they don't tell us exactly how they do this, but if I click more, there's a whole bunch of people here.
Right.
And if I searched again in a minute, I might see some different companies pop up.
Okay, cool.
And from what I can gather just from using it, it seems like they do their best to spread the calls around.
Nice.
And I try to think of it from Google's perspective. They don't want to shove all the calls to one company, because then all the other companies are going to stop using it. And so they're putting all their eggs in one basket. So they seem to really spread these around.
Very cool.
Because we'll take a $1,000 budget and put it to $10,000, and it doesn't change the amount of calls coming in.
Oh, nice. Okay. Very cool. Thank you.
As long as the company plans on being around for at least 6 months, but usually longer, I will push them to go for the organic first, which is this Google Maps box, and the website is just a part of that. Like every company these days needs to have a website. I say that there's a caveat there, because there's plenty of trades, businesses, contractors who don't have a website and who get tons of work, but their work comes from other places. Network, maybe they bid online, or maybe they get a lot of referrals, maybe they have billboards, whatever. But traditionally a website is really something you need, and if you want to play online, you need one. So a website, Google listing, that gets you here. From there, once you have that set up and you're getting reviews on a regular basis, and you decide you want more phone calls coming in, then the next thing I recommend is the local service ads, because what this is it's just taking your Google listing and it's popping it up here at the top. So if you just started your Google listing and you have 3 reviews, and you show up next to these guys with a 4,000 and 700, you're probably still not going to get very many calls. You might get a couple. They might be people who think, oh, well, the small company's probably cheaper, but you probably won't get a lot. But the cool thing about it is you don't spend money unless you get the calls. So it doesn't hurt you to be here. If you get 1 call a month, well, you're not spending very much money, but it's another call. And you're just trying to stack those calls. You need to, if it takes you 4 calls to get a sale, then every 4 calls you get a sale. So every call counts. Once you're signed up for that and you're doing all you can there, that's typically where we'll move to the Google ads. And Google ads is not something I recommend people do on their own anymore. It's just too easy to spend a ton of money and not get anything out of it. And I've worked with probably 20 different Google ads contractors, and the one I work with now is the only one I've ever seen that we're past the point where it matters how good they are, because Google ads, this is like eBay for buying leads. And so when you set it up properly, you're just competing with all your competitors on buying leads. So whoever's willing to pay the most will get them, and as long as you're setting up your account right and managing your budget, then you can keep it in a profitable zone. And this might be kind of hard to comprehend. It's taking me forever to even start to comprehend it, but Google Ads works on it's like an exponential curve. And so everybody, the way you set these up these days is you tell Google, like, well, I want to be on top this percentage of the time. Well, and then this company says, well, I want to be on top. And so when they're both telling Google I want to be on top, the price of that click goes up. And they're not saying I'm willing to pay this much per click anymore. Google's just automatically raising it. And so there's a little spot in the Google Ads dashboard where it'll project like how many leads you're getting. And say you spend $1,000 a month and you're getting 10 leads, and then it'll say if you want to get 15 leads, it's going to cost $20,000 a month. And so the curve happens really fast. And so there's always a spot on the curve where you're capturing about 80% of the market where that's your point of diminishing returns with Google Ads. And once you hit that point, you're getting what you can out of Google Ads for your service in your area. You can do more services, you can expand your area, but you're pretty much limited. And so any company who wants to grow and keep growing will eventually do all of this stuff. They'll try to be in all 4 places on Google, and they'll be asking for referrals, and they'll be getting reviews everywhere they can, and they might have people knocking doors, and might run Facebook ads if it's the right kind of service, and all of that. But the sequence of strategies, because each one of these sections requires a different strategy, this sequence can take a company from 0 all the way into the millions, just depending on how big their market is. If you're in a big city, it can take you into tens of millions. If you're in Coeur d'Alene, like maybe $1 million or $2 million. But you'll inevitably have to do all the things, and you'll have to track your numbers closely enough so that on a regular basis, say quarterly, you can look and be like, okay, our ROI on Google Ads is this, our ROI on Angie is this, and where should we put our funds? Because that'll change, it'll change seasonally. If one new competitor comes into Google Ads and says, I'm willing to spend all the money, it'll jack your prices up, it'll wreck your ROI, and so it requires you paying attention to this stuff on a regular basis. The cool thing about the organic stuff is it just kind of works. Like let's do an experiment. If I do like remodeling company, CA, Idaho, there's some local service ads, and then here's our company here, NL Kyle Construction, and so we only have 10 reviews. People might be like, well, what the hell? You only have 10 reviews. Well, we haven't really needed customers in years, so we don't care. But we still show up and we still get calls all the time just from being on Google. And for a remodeling company, we get a job that takes us 6 months or a year. Like, we don't need that many clients. And we get a lot of return clients, a lot of referrals. And so I guess if there's a key to getting all this to work, it's that you're not relying on the customers that come from this marketing only. Like, you really, really need these customers to become referrals and become repeat business, because the companies you're competing against are experts at turning these customers into repeat customers and referrals. And so if you're running a plumbing company in an extremely competitive area, you might be dealing with companies who are willing to take a loss on that first job because they know it will turn into jobs later, because they can track their numbers and show exactly where all their money came from. And if you're competing with them, you've got to do that. That's like the Amazon model. Lose money for 20 years, everyone else goes out of business. Now you're Jeff Bezos is the second richest guy in the world. It's a lot of stuff. Does anyone have any questions about this?
All right, so I want to figure out just like how many ratings directly affect maybe how you appear on that list with the other companies that have ratings. Like, say for instance, someone has 82 5-star reviews and then the other person has 10 5-star reviews. Maybe the 82 review person has like a 4-star review, and then so therefore it's not as perfect as the guy with 10 with 5 stars on each. I've
heard that statistically 4.8 is the best rating to have, because it's more trustworthy than 5, but it's close enough to 5 that people assume you're good.
Okay, and do the ratings at all affect the ranking?
Yeah. I think what affects your ranking more than just the number you have is like how frequently you're getting reviews and how recently you've been getting them. Because Google wants to show companies that are doing things on Google. If you have 1,000 reviews but you haven't got a new one in 10 years, you're not participating in Google's ecosystem, so they're probably not going to reward you.
Okay, gotcha. All right, cool, thanks. That was my question.
One way I like to think of it is, like, I have an Android phone. Android is Google. I use Google Chrome on a lot of devices. Like, Google's watching everything we do. There was just a leak last month of like 2,000 pages or something of their search algorithm things. Did you guys hear about that? And this whole time they're like, no, we don't use these metrics. And then according to all these papers, they're literally watching what everyone's doing on Chrome and using that data to change their search results. But it's like, of course they are. Why wouldn't they? They have access to all of that data. Why wouldn't they use it? So, you know, when somebody searches for a plumber, they open up your Google listing, they read your reviews, they hit the call button, and then 2 weeks later they come back and leave you a 5-star review. Google sees that whole thing and they're like, cool, this company is making our customers happy. Well, let's show them more. That's got to be a thing.
Okay, so I'm sure. All right, yeah, so they went from the main page to like another sub page and another page, and like I imagine they keep track of this data to some extent, and they're like, okay, so they're filtering through Google, they're going to the website, they really like the website, obviously. Like, I guess maybe they don't get to track the data of the website itself, but like the transition.
If there's Google Analytics on it, they do.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay, got it. Thanks.
Yeah. I think those are minor factors, but I think that at this point, they're probably using all the data they get to figure it out.
Let's see.
There's so many ways to find you, and Google knows everything about you. So, I mentioned earlier, but in regards to tracking, like if you're going to be doing sales and your own lead gen, people are always asking me like, well, what should I track? And just track the source of every lead as it comes in. Like every conversation you have, where did it come from? Put a note by their name or in the spreadsheet or in the CRM or whatever, so that you can go back at the end of the year or the quarter or whenever and track down where your money came from.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do, just track the source of the leads.
Yeah,
I had this company hire me for consulting. They were a landscaping company, and they're like, we're using Home Advisor for a long time. We hate it. It's not profitable enough. We want to do other stuff. And I was like, okay, well, what are your numbers? And so we dug through their numbers, and they had a really hard time finding them. But we eventually discovered that they were making a 7-to-1 return on Home Advisor. Never heard from them again. So it's like, the data's right there. It'll tell you what to do. The hard part is like when you're in Holly's situation, you don't have any data yet. So it's like you just got to blitz it. You got to do everything you can, hustle it, and then track it as you go. And then after a year, you'll be able to look back at 30 clients and be like, holy crap, 10 of them came from referrals from this one lady. Let's send her a gift basket and go stop by her house tomorrow. So another tidbit I picked up yesterday, I was listening to Alex Hormozi. You guys, anybody know who that is? The guy's a beast for making sales and marketing content lately. But he was talking about like habits of really good salespeople. And one of the things that I thought was really cool, really good salespeople, when somebody books an appointment with them, they'll call that person immediately and qualify them. And then if they have time, they'll just do the sales call right then. And they'll do everything they can to move that person up to today's time slot and free up that time slot later. And Hormozi's got like a big CRM platform that they use for like 100 companies. So they analyze all this data. And they were saying that when people schedule or book calls, if you have like a limited calendar, someone will book a call, but if it's not in their ideal time slot, they're not really likely to show up. Right. And so if you can get a hold of them and move them into another time slot, or better yet, hit them up right this second and do the sales call, like those salespeople make like substantially more sales. hit up your leads ASAP, close them on the spot if you can. And I mean, it's kind of common sense, but the salespeople that make the most sales are the ones that work their leads the hardest. I have 2 salespeople. One of them makes 4 times as many calls as the other, and she's making 4 times as many sales. So.
We're going backwards a little bit, but earlier you were talking about tracking and attribution. On Google My Business, they're very strict with how you portray your information, and it has to be kind of accurate. And if it's not, you have a potential of getting suspended. What I want to do is I want to use something like CallRail and have different phone numbers for something like a truck and then like a flyer or something like that, so you can track that. Have you seen any hiccups with something like that in terms of getting banned on Google My Business?
No, like Google My Business has some sort of built-in call tracking.
Right.
I think it might be going away. I'm not sure. We've used CallRail a lot, and we've also used Go High Level with Twilio numbers, and we'll use those as forwarding numbers. We get listings suspended all the time these days. Sometimes they just get suspended for no reason. So part of our day-to-day is just getting listings unsuspended.
Oh my gosh.
It's just part of the job now. So like every listing we start, it always requires a bunch of stuff to get it live. And then every time we change something, like my project manager has like PTSD. He's like, no, we can't change the name. And I'm like, dude, the business changed their name. We have to change it.
Yeah.
And so just do it and deal with it.
Is it like a huge pain to like get those suspensions overturned? Or are they like,
Not really.
They're pretty
You just
easy?
have to verify that you're a legit business and that you're really in that location and everything.
gotcha? Yeah, our client's about to change their name soon, so.
Yeah, be careful
Yeah.
because they just, like, you used to be able to just change your name. I changed the name of Kyle Construction like 10 times. We've had a couple clients change their name lately, and Google's telling them that they have to start a new listing. They cannot change their name. So,
Dang.
like, we've got one client who he wanted to change his name, but his current listing was getting a lot of leads, a lot of business. And so what he did is he ended up just starting a new company and new listings and keeping his old company and old listing producing. And we're just treating that like a new business and spinning it up and getting it running. And the day may come where he's ready to just close down the old one, or he might just keep it forever as like a little lead gen thing. So,
That's kind of cool. You might bid for the same words, but that's good. You take up more like.
well, if he's running Google Ads on only one of them, that's for organic, like Google Maps stuff. So,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah, those are my questions.
He could compete against himself though and take up 2 Google Ad spots. You're not supposed to do that, but Home Advisor does it.
Oh, I have a question. Do
Yeah.
you also, when you're working with your clients, do you work with getting them repeat customers too and referrals, or are you just specifically focused on getting them new customers on Google and like?
We coach them. We don't do too much of that.
Okay.
It's like ask for referrals, follow up with old clients. Like if you need work, call your old clients from last year and say, hey, I was thinking about you. How's your kitchen treating you? Everything's still good? Cool. Well, you were talking about doing an addition. You still thinking about that? Who else do you know that wants a kitchen? You know, like if you think about it, if you ask someone for referrals every time you talk to them, you're just on their mind. Like they might not know anybody, but then they come into contact with somebody and they're like, shit, that guy asked me every time I talk to him. Next time I'm gonna say yes. Yeah. I've got a friend named Zane who he's very zany, and Becca knows, huh? And he's kind of a wizard when it comes to like casual sales conversation. And it's fun to listen to him talk about it because he'll talk about calling like he has this Dream 100 list. It's like the list of 100 companies that his company wants to work with, and they just call them like every single month, and to the point where it becomes a joke. It's like, hey, it's me again, you know, what's going on? You want to hire us yet? No? Okay, like, so your daughter's graduating next weekend? See you there? And you know, it just like becomes this joke of like, oh, it's these guys again, but they're not dreading picking up the phone. But if you're there all the time, eventually the door will open. Right. And that's another thing I point out to my clients who want to work with other contractors. It's like, okay, that you do drywall and you want to work with home builders. There's 50 home builders in your town, so you should have a list of all of them, put them in your CRM, a spreadsheet, a notepad, whatever. Call them every single month. Know who they are, make sure they know who you are, develop a relationship. Over time, you will 100% be working with some of them. It's just inevitable. Most people don't want to do that. They don't want to get on the phone. They don't want to talk to people. They want to click some buttons on Google Ads and get all these customers flooding in, but it doesn't work like that. It's extremely expensive to do it that way. So the easiest way is to just get out of your comfort zone and just develop the relationships, talk to people, call the people, and just get comfortable with it.
And adapt. Did you run into issues with your clients possibly not wanting to go that extra mile to be good salespersons and having to sort of like step in during the process at all? Or are you kind of sort of making sure that you're working with that ideal client scenario every time?
By step in, you mean me step in and do their
Like,
sales?
yeah, having somebody on your team being sales.
No, I want to. But I can't run everyone's business for them.
Yeah.
So we have about 100 clients, and we have the whole spectrum. We've got the dude that goes on vacation for half the year, and we've got the guy who like is Johnny on the spot all the time. And I just tell people, it's like, you know, we've done this. We call it the FMS. It's the website and the Google Maps thing. We've done it like 150, 200 times. It's very, very clear that if you can go out and get 15 reviews next month, like this is going to work great for you. We only have one client who has had 3 reviews for 7 years and gets a lot of leads, and that's my first client, Patrick, because somehow I got him to rank #1 on Google organic. But he has 3 reviews still.
Wow. That's great.
So he doesn't show up on Google Maps, but enough people find him organically. But yeah, for the most part, it's just like, as much as I want to, like I do have a client who I coach them on sales a lot. I talk to their sales team. We've set up all their CRMs and we do all their marketing. But clearly the bottleneck is their sales processes, and it stems from the owner's commitment to like really make it happen. Because it's like one person really needs to take responsibility for making it happen, because 10 people are responsible for something, everyone else is going to do it. I don't need to do it. And so that's kind of what I see. There's companies, I think, Roman, you've got a client or had a client who they have sales teams go into companies and do their sales. It's like mercenary salespeople. Personally, I didn't like, in the beginning, I was uncomfortable doing sales calls. I wouldn't, 5 years ago, sitting up in front of here, I would have been so nervous. So I structured my whole company to have people come to me. I wrote articles, I made videos, I did all this stuff. Somehow figured out how to get people coming to me, and I was like, okay, this is cool. I can handle when people are coming to me. And I never had to do outbound. But if I had to start over today, I would 100% be doing outbound, because it's the quickest, most controllable way to get customers. And you can get feedback really quick. Like, I talked to a guy that had this new business idea. He wanted to be like a freelance project manager for construction companies. And I was like, I don't really know many fractional project managers. And that means there's probably not a lot of them. So why don't you make a list of all the builders in your area and call all of them and see if anyone will even talk to you about this? And he's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to call people. And so it's been a year since I talked to him, and I just hit him up the other day, and he's still in the same spot. So it's like, sometimes you just got to go out, knock 100 doors, talk to people face to face. If nobody out of 100 doors you knock will hire you face to face, they're never going to hire you over the phone. Like, if you can't sell it in person, like, that's the easiest way to sell. You're like, oh, you don't need your lawn mowed? Well, your garbage can's knocked over. Can I pick that up for you? Like, what will you give me $1 to do? And that's a Zane thing. It's like, just give me $1. Well, I'll do anything. Make it fun, make it light.
Have you noticed any, like maybe I don't know if you've tracked this, but any specific way that's most effective getting the most results in people actually leaving a review? So like whether it's asking them in person or it's putting it in the email request or whatever, you know, what's the most effective way to secure the review?
Is to ask them in person on the last, like when I'm remodeling a home, I'm rolling my drop cloth up, I'm backing out the front door. They are so happy they don't have to see me again tomorrow. I'm like, hey, it would really help me out a lot, and it would help other people to know what it was like to work with us. Would you please leave us a review on Google? Everyone says yes. Cool. Can you pull out your phone real quick? I'll help you do it. It'll take like 10 seconds. Oh, I don't have a Google account. It's super easy. We can get one made. Like, just give me your phone. I'll do it. Like, don't leave the house without the review because it's so hard to get it later. Yeah, they'll forget. Or we had this elderly lady try to leave a review like 4 times, and she would write the whole thing, but she didn't know you had to click the stars. And so it wouldn't let her submit it. So it's like there's a million reasons why they can't do it, forget, they can't figure it out, whatever. So getting it in person. And then if you work with other contractors or vendors, a good way to do it is to go leave them a review and then be like, hey, check it out. Send them like a screenshot or a picture. Hey, I left you guys a really good review. Here's my link. Please return the favor. I've never had anybody not leave a review immediately.
Follow-up to review question. I've heard that leaving a review with a picture is more, it ranks better, or it makes your company look better than...
Yeah, definitely.
Nope, okay.
Yeah, the more content, the better. Yeah, the picture reviews are great. Oh, another tip for reviews, if you have employees, is offer like $20 for every review that mentions you by name. And that way they're not only asking for reviews, but they're like watching them. They're like, you got to put my name in it. Help me out. Come on, I need $20. It's totally worth $20 to get a review. You're not allowed to pay customers for reviews, but I think you could pay employees.
So someone comes to you and they want to do Google ads, they want to do the whole spiel. Back to how you were saying you coach people to do outbound, sales training, whatever. How often do you like turn them away from, say, the FMS and tell them to do other stuff first? Does that ever happen? When does it happen?
Yeah, so the FMS is the organic Google marketing, just for the record. And so I'll ask people, if someone comes to me and they're in like dire straits, I'll ask them like, how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how sure are you that you're going to be in business in a year from now? Because if they say, well, we need to make it happen in 2 months or we're going to close the doors, then they shouldn't be investing in something that's going to take 6 months to ROI. So that's the main thing. If they need a quick turnaround, ads is really your only way. And I tell those people, like, go knock some doors, seriously. Like, if you don't have anything to do, go knock 100 doors.
Yeah, door knocking's sick.
Yeah, it works great.
Chuck and I knocked 100 doors and we got 20 people wanting to sell their houses to us. The biggest, most ridiculous thing you could ask someone, will you sell me your house?
And that's what we were asking because we had no idea what we were doing. We knocked the first door, like, no plan. The plan, knock the door.
Yeah.
Oh God, they answered. What do I do now? Hey, you want to sell your house? Yeah, that was astonishing how many people were open to that. And what's interesting is a lot of those people were like, they were like standing on a stack of flyers that said, I'll pay cash for your home. And they're talking to us and they're like, oh yeah, we get these flyers all day. We just throw them away. We don't look at them. But you're the first person to come knock on my door and talk to me.
Yeah.
So
I bet it's the same for so many trades.
It is. There's certain trades like roofing is huge in the door knocking. I got my door knocked the other day by roofing gutters, but not many people knock for remodels. Oh, here's another cool tip for like plumbers. This one's so good. So you get stickers with like a tracking number on it. So it's a number that's only on these stickers, and then even if you just go do an estimate or you just go inspect something, You slap a sticker like on the back of their toilet or on their water heater, and then you pull them in and you're like, hey, break out your phone, take a picture of this sticker, because this is a special VIP number. If you call this, you go to the front of the line. It's its own phone. You don't have to deal with anybody else. You go straight to us, and we'll take care of you first. And so now they have this special phone number on their phone that they can have on them 24/7, and they can send to people. Yeah, for anything. It's like, this is our VIP number. Yeah. Everybody slaps stickers on, but the key is it's VIP, and make them get a picture of it on their phone. I have a client who sells windows, and he doesn't like give them like a physical estimate. He goes in, he gives them the whole spiel, shows them the pictures on his iPad. He writes the price down on the back of his business card, and then he has them snap a picture of it, or he puts it on his business card. Snap a picture of it, and then he takes the business card. So they don't even have it. It's just on their phone. And then he'll have people like a year later be like, we're ready to do windows. Oh yeah, that guy made me take a picture. And then they have it. Yeah, he does that all day long. The phone, this is like a magical thing, because everybody has this on them all the time. It's like a permanent record. So they'll lose the invoice in 10 seconds. They'll forget the stickers on the toilet. But having it on their phone, that's the key.
Last question from me is, I'm not much of a Google guy or an SEO guy. Does SEO matter? And if so, what's the best way of implementing it? For instance, I'm about to launch my products with my beard brand, got the labels, got everything squared away, getting product photography right now done. With my other partner for Peak Visuals, he's doing product photography. Okay, so I already launched like a blog, and I feel like a blog is a good way of kind of like helping that organic reach. How does that exactly work? I feel like from candidate management to others, they have a blog, you get a lot of organic traffic. How long does it take usually for Google to recognize that? And is it important to have a blog? And obviously, we all know that AI makes it extremely easy to write blog posts. So is having a blog important with backlinks to different things?
Well, that's a really loaded question, because is it important is kind of a nuanced thing. But there's a lot of beard brands that are killing it using organic traffic. And so if you're going to go down the blog route, have you heard of Ahrefs?
No.
Okay. Ahrefs is it's a tool for like keyword research and stuff, but they have this free blogging course. And I mean, I took this thing like 5 years ago, and like still to this day, this is like, if I'm trying to compete nationally or internationally on the wide internet, this is what you do. This will teach you. As far as
that was a great tidbit there. Okay, thank you, sweet.
As far as making the content, my favorite way these days is like Roman and I make videos, and then we'll take the
ChatGPT 4.0.
Huh?
I've been using ChatGPT 4.0 to help with like the initial ones.
Yeah.
Just getting it done and
so like
post out.
That's fine, but to make high quality content, you take like your own words and stories, and then you can use ChatGPT as like an advanced word processor.
I haven't set that up yet.
Because you use the ChatGPT app?
I don't have the app. I pay for the 4.0 though.
So if you pay for it, you can download the app, and you can use voice to text, and it's perfect voice to text. And so you can be walking your dog and spend 3 minutes telling a story, and then ChatGPT will turn it into a blog post for you.
Okay.
And now your blog post is actually unique to you.
And it saves me time.
And it saves you tons of time.
So much time.
It probably will take the same amount of time as writing bullshit stuff with ChatGPT. You
and just
use your own stories and opinions.
And say, write me a 1,000-page, or sorry, 1,000 word blog post on the topic I just spoke about.
Yeah, there's
something like that.
Oh man, I don't remember. Oh, is it SEO Surfer?
Oh, that's cool.
You can hit me up later. There's a guy on YouTube who his whole channel is about using AI to rank on blogs.
Thank you. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, is it worth it? Yeah, if you want to go the long route and get sales that way. Like, there's a bunch of ways you could do it. You could do ads. You can have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I was TikTok, blog.
Probably have to do all of them. There's a lot of beard brands.
Yeah.
And with SEO, a lot of it is about finding the holes, like finding the content people want that isn't already there and writing that. Yes, 100%. I use that every day.
Yeah, sweet.
I just used it earlier because on my team, we document like everything that we do, and it's extremely tedious. So I'll just pull out the ChatGPT app and just tell it what happened. Hey, this client came back, they stopped in 2021, their domain's registered here, they want to do this, this is when we have to do it, blah, blah, blah. Turn that into some organized notes and use bullet lists. And it spits out the thing, and then boom. Cool, well thank you everybody for being here. Hope that was helpful. If you need anything, hit me up.